Hello and welcome to Rolling with Two. I'm Will, and with me as always is the grumpy King Ludwig.
Sarah.
And today we're doing a two-player perspective and accessibility for Castles of Mad King Ludwig First Edition. Now remember, this is the two-player perspective and accessibility, so if you want to see our reviews, check out Rolling with Reviews, Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Sarah, tell us a bit about this game.
All right. Castles of Mad King Ludwig is a tile-laying game of wacky castle building. Each turn, one player is the master builder and sets prices for each of the rooms on offer. Other players pay the master builder for the room they want, add it to their own castle, and score points accordingly. After the room card deck is exhausted, the game ends and the player with the most points wins. All right, well, so how does the game change for two players?
So there are a lot of setup changes for player count, and this happens differently for each player count. So you're going to have different number of tiles in each of the different shapes. That's going to be based on player count. The number of King's Favor tokens is going to be based on the number of players. So 2 for a two-player game. And the number of room cards, which is the timer of the game, because that's what tells you how to refill the row with new tiles. That's going to be 11 per player, so 22 for a two-player game. Yep. There is no bot, but there is a King's Favor, so that's kind of like Nana representation.
It's a goal for the end of the game, but yes, we'll see about that. All right, so issues for the two-player count is actually the fact that it has a very tight economy.
Yeah, so one of the ways the economy works, actually the way the economy works, is that one player is the master builder. They choose where the different tiles are arranged in the various cost slots. Then each player who buys from them, that's how you get money. Because the master builder changes from player to player. In higher player counts, there's more people buying.
Right.
So there's more money exchanging hands, and the master builder is getting richer quicker on their turn.
Right.
But with two players, one person's feeding in, and then your money goes out, and so it definitely feels like the economy is small.
Yeah, because it can be quite challenging if you're like, okay, I really need money coming in, but the other player's like, I'm going to buy a stair. And stairs are like 3,000. And that's not enough to get you what you want. And of course, judging what you want, what everyone else wants, that's the big part of the game. But at the two-player count, yeah, you've got that issue, because at higher player counts, if one person wants to buy stairs, it's not that big a deal. Somebody else will hopefully buy a room.
Yes, maybe a 4,000 and a 6,000, and all in total, that's 13,000 coming in. Whereas, well, in a two-player game, I got 3.
Yeah, so unfortunately, you will see more turns of just passing to get money. It's a thing you just kind of have to do a bit more, it feels like, in a two-player game.
Yes.
All right, so what it does well, though, is because you only have one other player to deal with, it's easier to judge what they want, so you might be able to better find that sweet spot of placing that tile that they want. If you can figure it out, which is, again, like I said, the big challenge of the game. You know what they want, you can figure out what's the most they'd be willing to spend, and hopefully maximize the amount of money that you get.
Yeah, I was talking to Sarah saying, I wonder if there's anything against the rules, like in a 4-player game, for you just to ask people, so, what do you want? Because, like Sarah said, 2 players, you can actually look at the other castle, understand what they're essentially building, what things that will work better for them than not. And plan accordingly.
Right.
4 players, not so much.
Because you might not actually even be able to see what the tiles are if, they're across the table or at the other end or whatever. So, yeah, I think that would be kind of interesting to just kind of do a call out. What you want? Yeah. Now, whether people are honest or tell you, that's another thing.
Whole nother layer of the game.
Yes. All right, well, that's it for the two-player experience. Let's move on to accessibility. Okay, there's a lot of things to cover, and
we should also note, again, this is a first edition rule, so some of these things may not apply to the second edition or collector's special super edition.
Yeah, because they've redone the graphic design, so where I've had a chance to look and compare, I'll try to bring it up, but Any issues you see here may not actually apply in the second or collector's edition. So the back of the tiles that have icons, they tell you what different types might be possible in the stack. For the first edition, they do not have the best contrast, so they're not always the easiest to see.
You said they were like a little faded.
They're faded. They look just slightly faded. It's not like they're terrible. It's just, it might take you a little bit longer to really look at a tile or pick it up to see it.
Right.
Activity rooms. They put a red number on a black castle to represent negative points. Of course, as we kind of have been saying for a while now, red on black is a really bad thing for colorblind accessibility.
Yeah, just for poor contrast.
It's really poor contrast. Your spatial reasoning is going to be challenging, or it can be challenging.
Yes.
Because this is very different than most tile laying games because you have so many different shapes. Figuring out where things will fit or not fit just can be really challenging and just adds another layer to tile laying games that aren't in most.
Yeah, because not only are they different shapes, but the door placements on, there's no consistency where those are either, adding to the whole mishmash shape that you end up with.
Exactly. So the rule sheet, it has a highly patterned background that makes it hard to read. Now, I did take a look at the online rule sheet for the collector's edition, which hopefully is similar to what's in the second edition. And they did a much softer background pattern.
Yeah, they toned down the pattern.
I still wish they had just done a solid color. In general, in your rules, do a solid color because vision accessibility for learning your rules is 100% the most important thing. Because if people can't learn your rules, they can't play your game.
Yeah, because it was like lines were...
Yeah, it's like brickwork. I mean, gray, but to have lines behind your text?
It was almost like they were striking out, like, oh, don't pay attention to these rules. They don't really matter.
Yeah, that's just not good. The player colors are kind of your normal choices of colors, which may not work for some people. The good news is all you really need is one score marker, and so hopefully you can just find a substitution or find a color in here that works for you. Yellow is usually the most distinct, so hopefully you can just play yellow. The other thing is, and I'm hoping they change this in the second edition, the score track is a snaking score track, and so it's easy to get confused on which direction you need to move your marker. And especially if, because of the way this takes up so much space on your table, if you happen to be the person who's relegated to be the score marker mover, you're going to be moving a lot of markers in a lot of different directions, and it's really easy to go the wrong way.
Yeah, this is actually not the first Bezier game that did that, because we had also the same issue with Suburbia.
Right. Well, the problem is these two games came out like only a few years apart.
From the same designer.
From the same designer. So they didn't really get, I guess, a lot of feedback on that's not a good idea.
It's very compact, though.
It is. It's just, if you're supposed to be going left and then you're moving a different one right, and it's just easy to mix it up.
just expect people going left, okay.
All right, well, that's everything that we had a challenge with. So what it does right, the two coin sizes are different, so that makes it very visually accessible. In fact, Will was the banker for our games, so that makes it less that I have to do.
Even the collectors has metal coins.
I know, metal coins would be nice. The icons are all unique, so you're not going to get them mixed up. It's just there are a lot of them, so trying to remember them may be a bit challenging, which is also why the next point is the player aid tile is extremely useful because in one side it has all those symbols, exactly the name of that room, and the bonus for when you complete that room. So I always had that right in front of me the whole game every time we play, just because.
And there's enough for all players.
And there's enough for all players. And the other side has the turn order, like steps for your turn. So that's really helpful too.
Yes.
The room sizes, as we've been talking about, the room sizes are all different. Each one has a square footage. So that's also the great thing for having a language to talk to each other. You're not just like, okay, this is the large square, this is the small square. You can say this is the 400 versus
100.
100.
Yeah, and 150 is the small circle.
Right.
500 is the large circle. 600 is the it's octagonal.
Yeah, it's just weirdly elongated.
This is elongated. In
Yeah.
fact, it was the one that I thought was an oval at first. I'm like, oh, no. It is. It does have edges. So
it's like a rectangle with the corners clipped off.
Yes.
So the good news is they do have unique numbers because square footage will come into play for some of the things.
Yes.
The bonus cards are easy to read and they're very simple and straightforward.
Yes. It shows a castle. It's like a white number, right?
Yeah, I think it's a white on black.
And then it says for every or for each. And then right below that is a symbol, whether it's a symbol of a room type or shapes of room. And if it's a shape of room, it's still going to have the number of the square footage. So you can be assured which square you have. It's not necessarily, oh, it's the small one, right? No, it says 400. Oh, it's the big one. Okay.
And the reason why this is really important is this is the only aspect of the game that has to be kept secret. Everything else is open information, and it makes it so that Will can play with the bonus cards kept secret, because it is some pretty big information if someone else has to read your cards to you.
Yes.
If they know what you're going after. All right. That's everything accessibility-wise.
Okay, so for 2 players, would you recommend?
I think so. The tight economy does kind of get frustrating, but being able to just have one other person to deal with trying to lay out the tiles makes it a lot easier, I think, for me anyways.
Yeah, I would say yes too. There are aspects of the game that does feel a little dated because when we got this was what, 2014?
Yes, this originally came out in 2014.
Yeah, so it has a little bit of its age, but it still does things that no other game out there does.
That we've played.
So therefore, it still feels very fresh.
Right.
So 2 players does feel good at that player count because they also make sure with the extensive setup, which does take a while, it's not going to be dramatically different than other player counts.
Exactly.
Accessibility.
I think this is going to be a mostly yes. I think the biggest challenge is going to be that spatial reasoning and the cognitive assessment of that. And maybe a little bit of the, I don't know how to put it, social assessment that you have to do.
That's Sarah's accessibility issues. My accessibility issues are the few instances where I might have a little trouble deciphering the bonus cards.
Yeah, that's true.
It takes me some time. I think especially with the hallways and corridors. For some reason, those kind of flummox me because I just can't parse them out quite right. But yeah, I think that's actually one of the reasons why we can play this game, unlike other Polyomino games, is because she has a slight accessibility issue with the spatial reasoning, which kind of evens out what I would normally have not being able to see everything.
That is very true. But I do think those who just have a basic, like, I don't want to say basic, typical colorblind issues are not going to have a problem accessing this game because of color issues. There's going to be other issues.
Yeah, and I can play with assistive technology.
Right.
I think I just need help pointing out where are the doors on this thing.
Yeah, I always do have to point out where the doors are, which takes a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But it's not terrible. Okay.
All right. And Sarah,
yes,
do you think there was a Mad Queen Ludwig?
Maybe.
There you go. And we've been
Rolling with Two.
And remember, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two. That's TWO. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
And if you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you. Because remember, he's rolling with you.